Hey everybody, Rachel McLove here from Empire Tax Professionals. I want to talk to you about the January 15th tax deadline that's coming up and what you need to do in order for you to be compliant and the exact steps, action tips of what you need to do ASAP if you did not, if you're not current with your bookkeeping, etc. So January 15th is the estimated tax deadline. That means that if you owe more than $1,000 to the IRS, or if you normally owe more than $1,000 to the IRS, then you are required to make estimated tax payments. So there are specific deadlines for estimated tax payments, and January 15th is the fourth quarter estimated tax deadline. So the first quarter is April 15th, the second quarter is June 15th, third quarter is September 15th, and the fourth quarter is January 15th. If you owe more than $1,000 to the IRS at the end of the year, and you did not make any estimated tax payments quarterly, then you will get a fine. You will get an estimated tax penalty, and the IRS will normally not abate any penalties because you're considered to be non-compliant when you don't pay your taxes quarterly. Okay, so a lot of business owners have been coming to us and they're like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I don't know what my tax bill is going to be like. And yeah, that's one of the biggest pain points that a lot of digital marketers are having, or even Amazon sellers. They don't know what their tax amount will be, and you really need to know what your tax bills or what your tax amounts would be, because you don't want to have a large tax bill at the end of the year. You would rather make these estimated tax payments every single quarter based on how much you made. So the first tip that I would recommend for you in order for you to know how much taxes you would pay quarterly is to make sure that your bookkeeping is really up to date. So we've been talking to a lot of business owners the past couple of days, and their bookkeeping is not up to date at all. They don't have QuickBooks set up. They don't have their chart of accounts set up. A lot of people, they have their admin in their office doing their bookkeeping. They don't have a consistent bookkeeping process in place, which is really bad. One of the reasons that a lot of business owners, they overpay in taxes is because they don't have their bookkeeping in place. Now, I know this is one of the biggest frustrations. Like, a lot of business owners can't find a bookkeeper, or they can't even find a accountant that understands e-commerce accounting or understands digital marketing, the language, the specific expenses that are able to be deducted because you're a digital marketer. We do that. We specialize, we work with Amazon sellers. We work with digital marketers on a day-to-day basis, and I speak to them every single time. So I speak to them all the time, and I know what the pain points are because I speak to business owners every single day. And I think I spoke to over, 5,000 business owners, and we prepare about 1,000 returns every single year. So we are pretty busy. Now, back to what I was saying. So number one is you want to make sure that you have your bookkeeping cleaned up and all caught up. So that means that from January to December, at the end of December, all your bank accounts must be reconciled. All your credit cards must be reconciled. Your PayPal accounts, your Shopify, everything must be reconciled. And if you don't know if it's reconciled, you're not really sure the shape of your bookkeeping or if it's good, if it's bad, if it needs cleanup, if it needs to be caught up, etc., because you don't know what to look for, send it over to us. We're going to give you a free bookkeeping review, and we will log into your QuickBooks and do an audit for you and let you know, okay, credit card, American Express has not been reconciled since June, or several things. Last year at an Amazon conference, I met a client. I met him at the Amazon conference, and then 2 weeks later, we found out that there are a lot of it that his bookkeeper did not reconcile several credit cards. And because of that, and we amended his return actually, and we were able to reduce his liability by $50,000. So what happened was we did a free QuickBooks review for him, and his accounts were not reconciled after June. So when we asked him, we said, hey, let's say his name is Mike, because for confidentiality reasons, I can't say the exact name. So let's say, hey, Mike, did you have more transactions, or did you have any statements from July till December for this specific card number? And he said, yes, I do. I actually made a lot of purchases on that on that card. So he said, your accounts were never reconciled from July to December. He's like, oh my God, my accountant or my bookkeeper never asked me for it. And guess what his bookkeeper said? His bookkeeper said, oh, you never gave it to me, so I thought that you had no activity from July to December. Honestly, it's the accountant's responsibility to ask these questions. And if we see an account, not having any activity from July to December, we would ask, hopefully the June statement should really be, the ending balance has to be zero. And if it isn't, we would still need to see, we would still reconcile it until the end of the year. And even if it's zero, there's late fees, or there's, annual charges that credit cards charge, etc. So because we were able to do this free QuickBooks review for him and find out that one of his accounts were not reconciled from July to December, we were able to reduce his liability by $50,000. There's another Amazon client that we helped, I think it was in October of last year. He made $1.7 million. He's an Amazon seller. He had a bookkeeper, which he was very happy with, right? He said, I don't have any complaints. I'm actually very happy. He also said that he had an accountant at the end of the year and they have a very good relationship. They specifically said that. And I said, okay, why are you calling us? He said the number one biggest problem is that his accountant told him that he had to pay, I think it was $150,000 in taxes a week before the deadline. So holy crap, I said, if your accountant tells you that you need to pay $150,000 in taxes a week before the deadline, and you had a bookkeeper and an accountant all year long, you better fire that accountant and bookkeeper. That is totally unacceptable. Okay, the purpose of you having a bookkeeper is for you to keep track and and make sure that everything is allocated in the proper buckets or classified accordingly to the right accounts. But at the same time, you want your bookkeeper to look at your net income and say, hey, Josh, or hey, Mike, or whatever it is, and say, you have a net income of $100,000. You need to start thinking about paying your taxes quarterly. So if your accountant is not bringing that up, or if your bookkeeper is not bringing that up, or if they're not making those quarterly payments for you, then that's a problem. You're going to get a huge tax bill this year or any year when you don't have somebody making those estimated payments for you. Also, what I see is a lot of accountants are being lazy. They let you know what amount to pay based on the prior year's taxes. So the rule is if you normally get away with getting any estimated tax penalties if you pay 100% of last year's tax. So let's say you owed, $20,000 last year or $10,000, let's say. And if you paid $2,500 per quarter and you actually paid 100% of last year's tax, then you don't get a fine. But I don't like doing that. And the reason I don't like doing that is because a lot of the entrepreneurs that hire us, they double their business. They triple their business. And even if you paid the $10,000, you're still going to owe a lot of money at the end of the year once you do the bookkeeping. So what we do in our company is we do the bookkeeping every single month. And then every quarter we run a report and we see what the net income is. And then we say, hey, this is how much you made year to date or for that quarter. And this is how much you need to pay in order for you not to have a large bill at the end of the year. So we're actually doing it based on the current numbers, not based on last year's numbers. I had a client 2 years ago, I think. She said, hey, Rachel, I didn't make any money. I just quit my job. She was working at some big medical company as a 1099, I think making maybe $200,000. I don't remember the exact number. And she said, I just got off the phone with my accountant, and he said that I needed to pay $2,000 every single quarter, but I knew something was wrong because I did not make any money. And guess where he was getting that $2,000 number from every quarter? It was based off her last year's return. So I said, why would you pay $2,000 per quarter if you didn't even make any money? That makes no sense. You could reinvest that money into marketing or any other services that you really need in order for you to make money. And then you pay taxes, or you pay your estimated tax payments or your net, your end of year taxes based on the actual net income that you have on your books. So she said, wow, you just saved me $8,000. Now I could, hire a VA, a marketing company, etc. And now that company is probably doing like $300,000 to $400,000, and they're paying us on a monthly basis where we do their bookkeeping, their payroll, their estimated tax payments. They're a marketing service, so they're not they don't have sales tax. But normally if you have sales tax, we help you with that too. So just, a lot of business owners that are reaching out to us, they're just frustrated with their current accountant because they just help them with the end of the year, or they're frustrated with their bookkeeper because they're just doing the robotic job. They're entering everything into the proper buckets, but they're not really getting any advice. They're not getting the profit and loss reports on a monthly basis. They're not calculating the estimated tax payments based on the net, and they're not getting any guidance based on what they need to do every single month. Also, a lot of our clients, a lot of the clients that are actually reaching out to us, they're also frustrated with, having large tax bills at the end of the year, large tax, bills at the end of the year. And when they get notices in May, or when you get notices in July, a lot of accountants at the end of the year, the ones that work at the end of the year, or they don't really respond. They close their offices April 15th, and then they go on vacation for a few months. A lot of our clients, or a lot of prospects that reached out to us, that was another thing that they were really frustrated about, because they said, I'm getting notices from different states regarding sales tax. If you're an Amazon seller, or if you are a eBay, if you sell on eBay or Shopify, etc., a lot of states are sending out these sales tax notices, and you want to make sure that you're compliant, or you get this very scary notice from California. It could be in May, it could be in June, it could be in October. And if your accountant is not available, the client is really scared and stuck. And they need, I don't think a lot of business owners understand the importance of having one person, one company, just taking responsibility and doing everything for the client at one time. So, and that's what we do. And I wish I could even, record some of the conversations that I have, but I can't, obviously, and I will never do that. But a lot of business owners really need to understand what are the biggest pain points, and don't get to that position where you don't want to get into the position where you get that letter and nobody's available for you, and now you're desperately calling accountants every single day and are desperate for help. You don't want to get there, okay? So again, back to the original conversation. So January 15th is a tax deadline. You want to make sure that you're going to make a payment for the fourth quarter. Make sure you make a payment at least by January 13th, so it could hit by January 15th. If you make the payment on that day, normally the IRS would consider it late. They would consider it as if it was January 16th. You need to do it at least a day before, and I would always do it 2 days before, just in case, to make sure that their system processes it on time. Then you want to make sure that you're calculating your estimated tax payments properly. You're not overpaying the IRS because you do not want a refund, and you don't want to underpay the IRS because you don't want to have a large bill by March 15th when your corporate returns are due, or your April 15th when your individual returns are due. So you want to make sure that you're paying the right amount, and the only way that you would know exactly how much to pay is if you have perfect and clean books, and make sure that all your accounts are reconciled, everything is in the appropriate buckets, or classified correctly, in the right. So you want to make sure that your eBay expenses, your Amazon expenses, or your marketing expenses, everything is in the right categories. And by the way, you want to make sure that you don't have a lot lumped in one category. So for example, if you're a marketer and you probably have a very large marketing expense, such as Facebook ads, Google ads, Yelp, you probably have a few VAs that work with you overseas. If you lump that all under marketing, your risks of audit will be so much higher, because that line item is going to be $50,000 or $100,000. What you want to do is you want to break it down you want to break it down as much as you can. So I would do outsourced VAs would be one category, or Facebook ads, if that's a large number, then that would be under one category. So you want to make sure that you're not only classifying all the expense into the right buckets, you want to make sure that the P&L looks audit free, and there's not a lot of a very high expense under one line item. Because if you do have that, then they may question you, and the IRS may send you an IDR request, which is an information document request. And they're going to say, okay, I want to see specific expenses under marketing, wages, and rent. And I want to see every single document or every single transaction that makes up that number. So you don't want the IRS to do that, even though you have the backup of every single expense. Going through an audit is very expensive because you need to pay accounting fees, and it's exhausting. It's a lot of time because you need to start gathering all this information. You would rather just want to make sure that you have your bookkeeping so clean that there are no issues, and you're thinking about the audit risks when you're preparing the return, and everything is really classified the right way. So bookkeeping is key. Making sure you're making that fourth quarter estimated payment is key. Then the end of January, I think it's January 31st, payroll returns are due. You want to make sure that you're filing your payroll returns on time. Tax planning is late. So I normally talk about tax planning anything to do with tax planning for the 2019 year. That's done. Everything was supposed to be paid or transferred, or any income shifting opportunities should have been done in 2019. So I'm not going to talk much about tax planning, but if you need help with tax planning for 2020, we could 100% help you. So again, making sure you're making the appropriate payments by January 15th, making sure your books are perfectly clean. If you need help with that, let us know. I could review your bookkeeping and let you know what needs to be done, or give you a list of things or questions that your bookkeeper should look into, because bookkeepers don't think like accountants. From their perspective, they want to make sure everything is in the appropriate category. But from the accountant's perspective, we want to make sure that everything is in the appropriate category. But at the same time, we want to make sure that everything is legally deductible, right? So I've seen, bookkeepers do work where they're deducting medical expenses, or they're deducting other things that that should not be on the P&L. But then from an accountant's perspective, the net is different because there are things that you can't deduct, and that should be away from the P&L. So it's very, I would recommend not having a bookkeeper do your books for that reason, because sometimes the P&L is wrong and your net income is going to be different than what an accountant tells you your net income it really is. So that's it. I mean, I pretty much mentioned everything that's really important. The key thing is getting your bookkeeping up to date and making sure you're making that estimated tax deadline. If you have any entity questions, let me know what your entity questions are. You want to make sure that you are the proper entity, which is another reason and another main big pain point that we see other businesses. They are the wrong entity. Most of them are single member LLCs. Some of them are multi-member LLCs, and they should not be. It really depends on the specific situation, what state they're in, where they are, etc. So you want to make sure that you are the right entity. You have the proper, person doing your books, or proper system for your bookkeeping. We normally use QuickBooks. We don't use Xero. We use QuickBooks, just make it easier. QuickBooks Online is what we use. And then, so that's it. So a little bit about our CFO services. What we do for business owners is we have a flat CFO service, a flat fee CFO service, where we do the monthly bookkeeping for our clients. We do their sales tax returns for multiple states. We process payroll for them. We make the payroll payments. We file their corporate returns at the end of the year. We file their individual returns at the end of the year. We make the estimated tax payments, and we calculate it based on the actual numbers on the bookkeeping. Then we also help you with any notices that you have. We help you with tax planning, depending on the plan that you are on. And we help you with everything from A to Z. There's nobody else that you need to hire. So like I mentioned in earlier this video, is there are a lot of people that hire a bookkeeper, a payroll person, and an accountant, and nobody really helps them with estimated tax payments or their notices. And then they get really frustrated. They don't know what to do or who they go to, because they got a notice. Or with my Amazon seller, the story that I said about the $1.7 million client, he owed $150,000, and he had a bookkeeper and an accountant at all times. Like, that's totally unacceptable. So if you're a business owner and you're making like $10,000 to $15,000 on a monthly basis, and you're a digital marketer, you're profitable, you're worried that you're going to owe a large amount, and you don't know your numbers, and you want to grow and scale, then you do need a CFO, like a virtual CFO service, that you're able to get your profit and loss reports on a monthly basis. you're able to know, or the one of our accountants on staff is able to help you and let you know what a reasonable compensation is. Because if you're an S corp and you want to save all that self-employment taxes on the net income, you're required to pay yourself a reasonable compensation, and that depends on what you do, how many hours you're working in the business. It could either be 50,000 or it could be 100,000, depending on how much money you're making, what your expenses are, what your net is, how many employees you're working. Are you working 40 hours a week? Are you working 20 hours a week? How much, what exactly are you doing? Are you doing admin, marketing? Are you doing more of the high level work? It varies on so many things when you want to make sure, when we're calculating the reasonable salary, and somebody on my team can help you with that. And then we process sales tax, estimated payments, corporate returns at the end of the year. So you don't need to look for somebody at the end of the year. And I think a lot of people are going through that right now. All their bookkeeping is done and now they're looking for tax preparers. But we literally do everything in-house. I don't have anybody working overseas for me. Some businesses may want to do that, but everybody is in-house. I have accountants in my office and give the customized attention to every single client. And as I mentioned before, so if you are making $10,000 to $15,000 a month, you do need a CFO service. I highly recommend it. Anybody making less than that, you probably need either a quarterly service where you need somebody to guide you. You may want to do your bookkeeping on your own, or if you're scaling really fast and know exactly you're going to be making $120,000 annually, you may want to give it to us. We'll give you a discounted rate for the first 3 to 6 months. Depends. And then we'll increase your rate once you're ready. But it really depends. Or you could just have an annual service and we can help you with that. But if you're interested in any of our CFO services, or if you want to get your taxes done, business tax prep, individual tax prep, or if you have a issue or if you have a problem with the IRS, where we're getting a lot of clients that they're having their accounts are being frozen or their wages are being garnished, and they're getting notices because they think that the IRS will never get to them. And I mean, that's a major problem. If you're behind on your taxes, get current as soon as possible, because the IRS will catch up. You're probably going to wake up one morning and not have access to your accounts, or one day you're going to get a letter from your employer saying your wages were garnished. And that's not something that, any business owner really needs, because then now you're stopping everything. You're focused on that. So you want to make sure that you're always compliant, you're current with your taxes, delegate it all to one person, and we could take care of it all. If you're behind on 3 years, 4 years, 2 years worth of bookkeeping or taxes, we could literally handle it all for you and help you get everything filed, including setting up a payment plan with the IRS. And they will normally accept it depending on your situation. They divide the total number by 72 months, and that's the least amount that they're going to accept. And but they will not accept a payment plan if you are behind with your tax returns, which we have a lot of clients right now that are behind with their taxes and they're dying to set up a payment plan, but the IRS will not accept a payment plan until the returns are processed. They're e-filed, processed, which takes about 6 to 8 weeks for the IRS to process it. Now the IRS knows the amount that you owe. They're going to divide that into 72 months, including, penalties and interest. And then now you start making your monthly payments to the IRS and the state. Every state is different, but you want to make sure that you're paying your taxes annually, so you don't need a payment plan, because even if you have a payment plan, you pay penalties and interest to the IRS, even if you have a payment plan. So I always say, get your bookkeeping done, get your, pay your estimated tax payments quarterly. Again, April 15th is the first quarter, June 15th is the second quarter, September 15th is the third quarter, and January 15th is the fourth quarter. So when you pay your taxes quarterly, there's no, big surprise at the end of the year. And then even if you do have a big surprise, you don't need to pay it all you do need to pay it all at once. And if you don't have the money, now you're playing catch up. You're paying last year's taxes, you're paying this year's taxes. And I actually had a business go out of I think it was like an event planning business. She went out of business because she was behind on her estimated taxes, and she owed about $100,000 to $120,000 in taxes. She only made $100K a year. But honestly, if she had a bookkeeper every month and if she paid her taxes every quarter, she would not close her business because the taxes are so high right now, right? This is why it's so important to have a bookkeeper, pay your taxes quarterly, file your taxes at the end of the year. And a lot of business owners are so busy, and I'm extremely busy too, but I have somebody handling it for me. I delegate everything that I possibly can. I dump everything into a sheet. I allocate it and delegate it to the proper person, and then I get it done. And, I have I think 12, 14 employees working for me right now, plus a few marketing people. It's hard. And bookkeeping and accounting is something that you do want to delegate to experts, not bookkeepers, because they don't know what is deductible usually. They don't know how to advise you if you get a tax notice. They can't make the estimated tax payments for you. They can't let you know what payroll and what your reasonable compensation is, and they can't file your returns at the end of the year. So that's why I say if you just hire one CFO, one virtual CFO who can handle the bookkeeping, then easily make the payments for you with your permission, and then help you with the notices in between, then file your returns at the end of the year. It's just easier. You're setting yourself up for success, and everything is being delegated, and you just have one less thing to do, and you're able to focus on your business so you can scale and grow and go to the next level. So if you have any questions, let me know what your questions are. I love helping my clients. I enjoy it. And, my dad actually didn't pay his taxes, and this is why I am an accountant. I love what I do because my dad got bad advice, and he really got bad advice, and then he ended up owing, I think it was $1.2 million in taxes. He ended up literally writing a check for $1.2 million in taxes because his accountant did not give him guidance. And I'll never forget, that moment that I said, I want to make sure that all of my clients are educated and they know exactly what they need to do. So no client ever falls into the same trap that my dad did. And I think I've been doing a very good job. So because we have so many clients that are still with us, and I have no contracts, no cancellation fees, nothing. And we're doing our job. We're helping our clients. We're growing really fast. Thank you so much, and have a great day, guys.